Welcome to this Fane online event. Our guest today is one of the best known and biggest selling authors in the world of all time. He's the creator of some of the world's most popular crime series. He's a multiple #1 bestseller, collaborated with former President Bill Clinton, with music legend Dolly Parton. He's also donated millions to support independent bookshops and literacy projects. He is, of course, the one and only James Patterson. Welcome, James.
Yay!
This
Hello,
is
Claire. Nice to meet you. I'm a fan, so this is fun for me.
Well, then that makes two of us then, because I'm a huge fan of yours, and it's quite unusual for me to literally beg to interview someone, but this is what I did in this case. I was very, very keen. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in New York State, about 25 miles north of New York City. On the other side of my computer is the Hudson River, and where we are, the Hudson, people don't realize what a big river it is, and it's 2.5 miles wide here. And across the river, and that's my phone, and it'll just go, and we'll just pretend like it's not happening. Somebody's calling. It's probably President Clinton or something. But they're just Rockefeller bought all that land, and he gave it to New York State, but he said you can never build anything there. So you could be in Jamaica, you could be in Kenya. It's just nothing but river and hills. It's very, 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 very nice.
That sounds amazing. And is this where you would normally write? Are you in your writing space?
Well, I'm mainly in Florida. This room, yes. Yeah. You can see some books, whatever, there's stuff in the background, whatever the heck it is. Yeah.
Now, your latest book is 12 Months to Live. This isn't the cover. This is an early proof cover.
That's their special, whatever.
It's great because look, it's got bullet holes in it.
Yes, there must be some murders in this book, and there are, by God.
There certainly
but
are.
it is called 12 Months to Live. The original title, which I wanted to use, and they got a little scared of it, was Jane Effing Smith. And on the back cover, actually, of that advanced reading copy, they have Jane Effing Smith. Yeah, there it is. But 12 Months to Live is one of the things that's interesting about this book is I think that this is the best character I've ever created, including Alex Cross, including for me, it is. And we'll see what readers think. But what's fascinating, having created this great character, we have 12 months to live this year. Next year, there will be 8 months to live, and the year after that, 4 months to live. So it's a cool, I don't know, somebody might have done it before, but I'm not aware of it, but it's kind of a cool idea and gutsy and fun. And I think readers will really get a kick out of it. Yeah. We're always looking for what's the next, what's good. Like, I'm a big fan of a lot of the shows you have over there. I'm currently catching up on Happy Valley, which I had missed for some reason.
The best. Happy Valley is the best. And
is it? Okay. All right.
Yes, completely. And I was a police officer before I was a writer. And out of all the police TV shows, Happy Valley is the one that sort of hits hardest, that feels the most authentic.
Well, I don't write realism, as you can tell from my books. My stuff is a bit over the top, but it's operatic. I mean, hopefully there's some connection. But I'm sorry, you were going to say.
Well, no, just in terms of the over the topness of it, I think we have to write over the top, don't we? I mean, 90% of the crimes that I investigated were really, really boring, and 90% of the criminals I met were really stupid, and that doesn't make for entertaining crime
No,
fiction.
that's not good. We want worthy opponents for our detectives. Yeah.
So can you tell everyone watching at home a little bit about 12 Months to Live?
Well, the hero is Jane Effing Smith, and she gets that term because she's tough. She's tough, and the way she's going to deal, we find out very early in the book that she has an illness and that she's going to die, but she's not one to go gentle into the good night. She's going hard. She played hockey in college, which is a very tough sport. You really get battered around a lot. And her background, she's done it all. She's not one of these people so she briefly was a police officer. Then while going to law school, she became a private investigator, so she knows how to do that. And then in law school, and she became a defense attorney. And the guy who she's defending on Long Island, which is outside of New York, is she knows him from the small towns there. Amagansett actually is the town that she's from. On my hat here. And he actually has dated her sister, and he's a terrible human being, but really fascinating. And we'll see where that goes. But he's on trial for murdering a family, and we'll see whether he did it or not. And the way they go back and forth is I think part of the thing that keeps us reading the book and turning the pages.
It is, and also I was thinking.
What did you think of the book? This is the best thing, because I can just make up stuff and lie about my own book, but
yeah, I mean, I hated it. I thought it was mediocre.
Okay, well, that's so honest. That's so refreshing. I like that.
I
That's
loved
nice.
it, and I absolutely loved it. I raced through it, and this is your MO, isn't it? Is page turners. It's those can't put it down, just one more chapter, constant cliffhangers, constant twists and turns. So I loved it, but what I loved most about it was Jane. And when I finished it, I felt actually I would just read anything that featured Jane in it.
Thank you. Mike Lupica, I write it with Mike. Mike Lupica is probably my best friend in the world now. And we go back and forth. It's like a writer's room in Hollywood. I mean, we talk half a dozen times a day on the phone. We go back and forth on dialogue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he let his daughter is a big reader, and she was a hockey player actually. And I'm sorry, she's equestrian. Same idea, you fall on your head off the horse. But she, when she finished, she said, "I got to read the next one," and we had already finished the next one, so we gave it to her. So she's read the second, and we're writing the third right now. So there'll be at least 3 Janes, unless somehow he can survive, which I don't think so. But who can tell about these things?
So it's interesting because I wasn't sure. Nowhere in this advanced copy does it say that this is part of a series, the start of a series. And so I wasn't sure, is this going to be a standalone? She's technically only got 12 months to live. So it's really great to hear that there's more. How do you decide whether something is going to be a standalone or a series? What is it that makes it a series?
Well, with this one, usually I don't write a lot about the character before I do the outline, but in this case, I wrote a couple of pages about Jane Mike and I did over a course of a couple of weeks, and just things that differentiated her voice, her dialogue, her style, her sidekick, Jimmy Conniff. Who's important to the story as well. So that was really important for us in this book. I did the same thing with Alex Cross before I wrote the first one of those. Sometimes I just jump right into them, but I knew, Mike and I knew right away that we wanted to do a series, and I had this idea for the 12 months, 8 months, 4 months, which I just thought was kind of cool. And gutsy. I mean, who does that? You're gonna do this character that everybody's gonna love, but it's like life, at a certain point, a quote that I don't know where this came from, but I love it, and it's really been driving me all year in terms of my choices. And I think whether you're 20 years old or my age or your age, what are you, like 31 or whatever, and the quote is, "My time here is short. What can I do most beautifully?" And I love that. It's just such, whether you decide to raise a family and that's what you want to do, or whether you want to become a potter, or whether you want to try to write books or poetry or whatever the heck it is. What can I do most beautifully? And for me, it's telling stories where I feel passionate about it. And I turn down a lot of things. Because I go, yeah, I think that would work, but I'm not. I don't want to do that. I can't do that beautifully. But with Jane, I really, and Mike and I, we really got into her and writing about her, and love writing about her. So it'll be tricky. Well, 4 months to live and what happens to her and whether, but I don't know. It's not looking good.
She has a tremendous amount of humor. She's got real sharp wit. And I
Yeah.
think that combined with this vulnerability, she's vulnerable not only because she's been diagnosed with this terminal illness, but also
Yeah.
because she's very human, and there's this incredible connection, emotional connection between her and Jimmy, her partner and close friend, and
Yeah.
also this burgeoning relationship that we see her navigate, and that makes us want to root for her. In fact, I think there's a line in it that I think sums up the reason why we want to read this book. So she's starting this relationship with this guy, with this vet,
Veterinarian. Yeah. Mhm.
and he says something along the lines of, I want to root for you to win this trial, but at the same time, I want the guy to lose. And that's us, isn't it? That's the reader.
Uh-huh.
We want that too. We don't want this. He's obnoxious, this
Yeah,
defendant.
Yeah, he's awful. Yeah.
So we
Jane,
do
Jane,
want.
Jane partly wants to lose too.
She does, yeah. And so
Yeah.
because she's got an unbroken record, she's never lost a case. Of course, we're rooting for her because we love her. We really like her. She's funny. She's making us laugh. But yeah, we want him to lose. And that is what kept me reading the book, was just she has this tremendous strength.
Yeah, and she's self-effacing, and she's aware of her flaws. And okay, I mean, she doesn't love them like all of us, but so many people now they don't even want to accept that they have the flaws, and just go with it. It's like, okay, here it is. Here's what, just get comfortable in your own skin. And what's comfortable probably isn't right with Jane, but she accepts who she is.
Yeah. She also likes dogs, and let's face it, that's a surefire way to get readers on board, isn't it?
Yeah, no, well, she gets this dog and she turns it away 2 or 3 times, and then and the dog doesn't look like it's doing well, so it's a perfect fit for her. And she names it Rip, which is R.I.P., rest in peace. So whatever. So she's got a little sense of humor even about the dog. A dog probably has a good sense of humor too, I think. I don't know.
Definitely.
And I know the biggest thing, I could probably knock Jane off, but if I knock the dog off, I'm in big trouble. So.
I mean, that's practically against the law, isn't it? In writing, you can torture people, kidnap them, murder them, but you cannot hurt animals. Readers
The
get.
Alex Cross has a cat, and I knew I couldn't do anything with the cat, but the cat has not been in the last 5 books. Just has not appeared, but we don't know any. We don't. I think it's in the attic or something. It's around, but we just hasn't been in any of the books lately.
It's staging a comeback, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I want to
Okay.
come back to this book. We've got lots more to talk about in relation to this book, but I'm really fascinated, and I know everyone watching will be fascinated to know what your journey was like as a writer, because you started in advertising, didn't you?
Yes, but I've been clean for over 30 years. So yeah, I did. And I always I thought it was presumptuous of me to think that I could make a living as a writer. I went to grad school, Vanderbilt, which is pretty good graduate department, and was during Vietnam, and I had to leave Vanderbilt because of the Vietnam thing. But I was really encouraged by a professor there, and he said, you can do this thing. And my grandmother was my big mentor all through life, and she only got through the 8th grade, but she was very smart, very down to earth. And she said, you can do anything you set your mind to, except you're not going to play in the National Basketball Association. You're not quick enough. And that sort of broke my heart as a kid. But but I did, and as you know, this whole idea of becoming an author, it's a foolish thing to think we can do this. But I'm sure you had your dream, right, when you were a law officer. Oh, I want to write, and I was the same way. I wanted to write, and it took me a while to get established. I didn't really have a hit. I published my first book and it won an Edgar when I was 26, but I didn't have a hit book until I was in my 40s. So
what when you say a hit book, did that hit the New York
bestseller.
Times list?
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
And how did it feel to have that breakout book?
Great. No, I did an autobiography, which is actually not as painful as you would think it would be. It's actually kind of fun to read. But one of the scenes is I had picked up the New York Times, and this is the first Alex Cross book had come out, Along Came a Spider. And I hadn't heard from the publisher, but I looked at the Times list, and there it was on the Times list. And I said, this must be, I didn't believe it. So there was a bookstore close by on Broadway where I lived in New York City at the time. And I went over there, and there was the book in the window. And I, well, this is cool, the book's in the window. And then I went back, and what, I don't know if you do it, but what some writers do is we'll count the books at our local bookstore. And, and I knew that there had been 12 copies, and suddenly there were only 6 copies. So I said, maybe that Times list is right. And while I'm there, this woman picked up the book, and I'm watching her. That's the other thing we'll do, and I still do it. Like if I'm in an airport and somebody picks up one of my books, I'm watching them. And if they buy it, it makes my day. And if they put it down, it breaks my heart. So I'm watching this woman, and she's leafing through Along Came a Spider. And then she tucks it under her arm, and she starts to walk down the aisle, and then she slides it into her bag. She stole it. And all I'm thinking, does that count as a sale? So that was my first bestseller, and my first experience being a best-selling author, as someone stole the book. Maybe people were stealing it all over the country. Who knows?
So did you go full time as an author at that point?
No. I was sort of afraid to. I didn't have confidence to do it. They did give me a 2-book contract for Alex Cross, so I did then Kiss the Girls after that. But it was sort of like, okay, this is working okay, and why mess with it? And it really took a while before this is another story that's in the book. I had made enough money to buy a little beach house, and it was a Sunday, and I had to go back to advertising. It was a beautiful day, and the last thing I wanted to do was drive to New York. And what made it even worse, because I had a Sunday meeting in the office, what made it even worse is that the Jersey Turnpike was like wall to wall going north back to New York City. So I was going like 10 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour, and I was really getting irritated. And the other side, like about every 10 seconds, a car would go by, whoosh. And, maybe 15 seconds later, whoosh. And I'm, for an hour and a half, and I'm having this object lesson here. And I finally, and this is a true story, it dawned on me that my journey, I was doing this all wrong. And the last thing I needed to be doing was going back to New York and going into advertising. I needed to get on the other side of the highway, literally on the other side of the highway, going that way, whoosh, whoosh. And that's when I made the decision to leave J. Walter Thompson. And soon after that, I told the boss of bosses, and I said, I'm going to give you time to figure it all out, but I'm going to go right. And it was just that moment of realization that I got to get on the other side of the highway. And it was that clear,
And since then, or since over your career, you've sold a number that I actually thought was a typo. You've sold 400 million copies.
Oh no, that's a typo. It should be 4 million. No, it is 400 million or something, whatever. It's a lot. I don't keep track. I'm not a numbers person that much. I don't get competitive about it. I do what I do, and it's okay. And J.K. Rowling, great, God bless her, and whatever. But it is crazy.
Okay.
And one good thing, I grew up on this river. I mentioned this river that's behind my computer there. And I grew up in a small town. And one of the great things about, and it's such a benefit for me, I still see the world through the eyes of this kid from Newburgh, New York. So, I'm being interviewed by Claire. This is terrific. This is fun. This is neat. Oh, I did a couple of books with President Clinton. How cool. Or Dolly Parton. Or I just finished the Michael Crichton. Michael Crichton had started a novel. He wrote about 60 pages, and his estate came to me and said, would you like to finish it? And I said, well, let me read it. Let me read the 60 pages, and I really liked them. It's about a volcano that threatens to just destroy the island of Hawaii, but there's something even worse that it'll do on that island, much worse than just destroying the island. And I said, yes, I would like to finish this, and it would be a great challenge because his books, they hook the reader in, but then he does a lot of science, and I hadn't done that before, so I thought that would be cool. So I got a researcher in Alaska, volcanist, Elizabeth from Alaska, and she lives in Anchorage, and I would talk to her 2 or 3 times a week about, can I do this? Can we do this? Can this happen? And but that was great fun. It's great fun. But once again, just the spirit of, oh my God, I'm finishing a Michael Crichton book. How cool.
So is that what I've been trying to figure out what the driver is now? Okay, so you've sold
Yeah.
400 million copies, whatever. I'm going to make a wild assumption that you probably don't need to write books in order to
Well,
live.
I'm a gambler, and I've gambled away like Phil Mickelson. I've gambled away over. Yeah, no, no. Financially, I don't tend to think that way. My needs are modest. My life is modest, other than the fact that Sue and I do have 2 very nice houses. This is a really nice house, and the one in Florida is a really nice house. Other than that, we don't do a lot. I don't have needs. I don't have. There's one billionaire that I know, and he has like 6 houses. He and his wife have like 6 houses. I said, don't you feel guilty that I said, I feel guilt. This house here, we're only in 3 months a year, and it's really, really, really nice. And I feel guilty, though, that it's like sitting here for 9 months a year. And I asked him, I said, yeah, don't you feel guilty that you're like only in that house like 3 weeks a year? And he said, nah. Whatever. I'm just not into that's possessions don't, for the most part. Here I am with my whatever $30 turtleneck and my stupid hat and whatever.
And I
I don't look at that. I mean, that doesn't make me a good person, but that's my deal. So I don't really care about the money. I mean, I don't want it to stop. Don't get me wrong. But yeah.
so I've also heard you say on various podcasts that you're not, hitting the bestseller lists, the numbers, that's not really your goal. So what keeps you going? Why are you still writing so prolifically?
Money in the bestseller list. No, I love somebody says you like if you find something you like to do in life. And then it's a miracle if somebody will pay you to do it. I love telling stories. I grew up as a kid. We were out in the sticks, out in the woods, and I used to wander around as a little kid telling stories to myself. And I love to do it, and I'm good at it. I'm really good at telling stories. Stylist, I'm okay, but storytelling, I can sit down and I don't care. Well, I could tell a story about the two of us going back in a Zoom. I don't know how that, but I could, and I love to do it, and I love the challenge of doing something better. Like as I said, 12 months to live. I think it could be my best. It's certainly one of them, and I love that when you do that. The Crichton book, which I just finished, it turned out well, and that's really fun for me. I don't like, and they don't, as you know, they don't all turn out as well as you hope they would. Well, maybe you don't know, but that's been my experience. And I love that. I love, and I have, as you may know, somewhere around here in the background, there are literally 30 piles of manuscripts or whatever, and they're all live right now. There are things that I'm playing with, some nonfiction, a couple of children's things, some screenplays. I don't write the screenplays, but I'll, there's a bunch of Hollywood stuff. The Alex Cross, Amazon Prime. We've shot 8 episodes of the next, Alex Cross with Aldous Hodge, who's really a handsome Alex Cross and a good actor, which is nice. But yeah, no, I don't. I mean, that's what does it. This is what I do. I love to do it. My wife and I are really close. One of my lines about Sue is if Sue ever leaves me, I'm going with her. So we're very, very close. We're close as our son. He's in New York now. He's 25. He calls us almost every day. He's not a mama's boy, but he just, so we're close with him. We have some close friends, but we're not terribly social. And we write, and Sue actually wrote a novel a couple of years ago. She's doing another one now. So yeah, we do that and it's good. I don't know.
You're well known for your collaborative approach to working.
Mm,
I'd love to hear a
yeah.
little bit more about that. When did you start working with other writers and why?
The first one, a friend of mine who worked in advertising with me, and we had gone golfing, and I started to talk about this, maybe this golf novel, Miracle on the 17th Green, and I had an idea for it, blah, 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 blah. And advertising, a lot of things are collaborative that people go, oh, how can it be? Well, almost all television, not all, but most television series, it tends to be there's a writer's room, especially in the States. And you'll have anywhere from 5 to 10 writers in the writer's room doing these collaborations. Advertising is collaborative. You tend to work with an art director, maybe a producer, when you're doing these little 15 or 30-second spots. So I was used to collaborating. I didn't find it any mysterious thing. Um, and it's, I'll write some of them, all by myself. And then if I don't, I tend to write I don't know, 50 to 70 page outline. I then ask the collaborator to contribute for two reasons. One, I want their contributions. And secondly, I want them emotionally involved. And if they add stuff, even if they only add a little bit, they'll go, well, now it works. And I go, okay, great. Let's do it then. And then unlike the publishers, I like to look at work about every couple of weeks. So they will send in whatever it is. And I'll get back immediately and go like, yeah, you're the best, or hold it, hold it, hold it. We've lost the tone, or these pages are marching in place. Sometimes you'll write a book and it starts out and you go, oh, it's so cool. And then all of a sudden you find yourself with nowhere to go and you're just marching in place, and that's not good. Or you did a red herring, but the red herring, which they won't know about for another 200 pages, meanwhile, they think the murder's solved and they have no interest in reading anymore. And you can't just say, this is a red herring. This is, so don't get bored with this because it's not going where you think it is. Because that is not fun when you're in a mystery and you think you know exactly how it's going to play out. And you feel like I've read that kind of thing before. I don't want to read it anymore. Da, 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 da. So, and then it varies with who I'm working with. With President Clinton, it's a little different. The cool thing to me about both President Clinton and Dolly, they've become great friends of mine. Clinton, we're going out to dinner with them tomorrow night with he and Hillary, which is really cool. And once again, little kid from Newburgh, wow, I'm with the president and Hillary. This is very cool. And for one of my birthdays, he gave me a humidor, and he knows I don't smoke. So I called him up and I said, so Bill, do I put bubble gum or chocolate cigars in here? And he said, oh, bubble gum. He said, at our age, we need to exercise our gums and our, whatever. But that's the relationship. And Dolly and I, same thing. I mean, we really have become good friends. The first year we were working together, she called up and she sang happy birthday to me over the phone. And what I wanted to do was, I said, I want to say, Dolly, I want you to call again and you're going to go to voicemail and I'd like you to sing it on voicemail. But I didn't have the guts, so I didn't ask you to do that. But that's the other thing about the collaborations. And they tend to be, I have one right now that's pissing me off, but mostly the collaborations have been great. I mean, they're really fun and they are collaborations. And I did one with Lisa Marklund, who's a Swedish mystery writer, very good. And in the States, you're lucky if you get one interview. Seriously, it's over there. I went over there when our book was coming out. We collaborated on a book. We had 46 interviews. And they ask a lot of interesting questions, unlike the U.S., where they kind of ask the same questions over and over again, sociology, history, et cetera, et cetera. And but the one thing they said, well, how could a Swede and an American ever get along? It didn't work with Saab and, blah, blah, blah. And what we said was that, one, we had respect for one another's writings. And secondly, we listen. We listen. We listen. And that's the key thing. And that's what you don't get in Hollywood. They do not listen. You'll say something and they're like, uh-huh, uh-huh. They didn't even hear it. They don't even hear it. They're just, Hollywood my irritation right now has to do with the Hollywood project. And it's just like, oh, come on, we're supposed to collaborate. At any rate, yeah.
how do you choose your collaborators? If there are writers, published
Good
writers
looking women.
at home,
No.
how, how would they, do they approach you? Do you approach them? How does it work? How do we audition?
Mainly it's people that I've known along the years, but what I'm really looking for are people who can write scenes. I'll pretty much figure out the story. Um, or we have a book, it's going to be a series coming out in January. It's an interesting thing on a couple of levels. And I have a relationship actually in Hollywood with Skydance. They do the Mission Impossibles and blah, blah. And I talked to them about a couple of, I talked about the Women's Murder Club, and the guy said, well, my wife loves those. We'll buy that. And I said, here's another one. You should just buy it on the title, and it's contemporary. And the title is Holmes, Miss Marple, and Poe. And it's modern day book. He said, well, I'm not buying it on the title, but tell me a little bit more. And I did, and they bought that. I mean, not that it's not being made, but it's coming out in January. And the notion of it is, and you don't know exactly what happened in terms of it's not like supernatural or anything. But they're investigative techniques, and they get together and work together. But their techniques are very similar to, well, certainly to Holmes and Marple. And then Poe, it's a little different kind of a gig, but it's just sort of a cool thing. And I went, this is a cool idea. And then the guy I worked with, who was a friend of mine, and we did a little kids TV show for a few years. He'd never written any fiction, zero, and he's great. He's great. He's great to work with, and he's just got it. And just go like, holy, this guy has it. You just go, I don't know where it came from. So it varies. Yeah, people do approach me, a lot of people. And a lot of time I'm like, and they don't really need any more people. The publisher's already like enough already, please, no more. I'm going to get one more here. This is really a cool idea. So yeah,
With so
I'm
many,
actually doing one now with a famous actor who's a woman. And that I can't get into who it is, but that's another cool one, which I'm enjoying that collaboration.
are there any celebrities or politicians that you would love to do a book with?
Yeah, Pope Francis and Putin. Because Putin knows where all the bodies are buried, right? I mean, oh my God. No, I'm kidding, but I mean, the new one that's coming, which I can't announce yet because we haven't quite made the deal, but that was a fun one. She's really good. She's a real powerhouse and deservedly so in Hollywood, and seems to be good to work with. So yeah.
Watch this space. So with so many projects on the go, that there's a huge project management side of your job as well as
I
writing.
kind of, you know, when I was creative director, I did a lot of stuff at Thompson. I just got used to handling a lot of stuff at the same time. I don't even think about it. I don't have a staff. I have one assistant. It was funny. There was one project, and it was a kids thing, and I wanted to do it with this one author. And I called him up, and he loved the idea, and he said, I'm in. And he said, have your people call my people. And I said, well, I am my people. He said, okay, well, you call my people then. Yeah. So a lot of it is like that, I'm not being egomaniac about it, but I just can do things relatively quickly. And I do have a good lawyer agent who does, a lot of the stuff, but a lot of it I will do myself because it's just faster.
What does your working day look like?
A mess. Chaotic. No, I usually get up around 5:30. I'll write some. Sue and I we both like to golf, but we'll go out and maybe walk for an hour and 15 minutes or so, and then we're done. We come home. I'll write some more. We'll have lunch together. I'll write some more. And then the night, whatever the night becomes. I don't want to get into that with the audience here. Very exciting though. Yeah.
And are you quite an organized person? I have to say at this point
Yes.
that I'm genuinely quite stressed by the fact that there's paperwork on your floor behind you.
Uh-huh. I
Uh,
am organized, but I'm not neurotic about it. But I am organized, yes. And that is organized. That is an organized thing of you get to a certain point and you get a little more forgetful, which I wish our presidential candidates would acknowledge that. So this helps me as I walk down the aisle and go, okay, I have a whatever time and I will be there for that, and et cetera. But yes, no, I am very organized. Yeah, extremely organized.
and you say you work fast. You presumably write your books fast. How, if you're writing a book on
I
your own?
write, I rewrite, I write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite the
So
outlines. I can sometimes do 6, 7 drafts of the outline.
so tell me more about that process from the start. How does a book, how does something like 12 Months to Live get from the concept to this finished book?
Outline, big outline, and I'll just start writing scenes. And they won't be in order. And I'll just write scenes, scenes with Jane that I see, trial scenes that I see, scenes with Jimmy, scenes with if they're going to be a murder or whatever, and just the scenes in no particular order yet, because I kind of know where it's going. I know the beginning. Somebody said at one point that you can make a lot of money if you can write openings and closings for books. If you write middles, you like win the Nobel or Pulitzer, whatever. Nobody writes good middles. But I'll just do the scenes, and then I'll just at some point I'll start trying to make an order out of the scenes.
And when you
Um,
say you're writing effectively a summary of that scene. If this is a book that's going to be a collaboration, you're not writing the scene itself, right?
no, 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 oh no, no, no. It'll just be James and Clare are on a Zoom, and they decided that they were in love and were going to kill their spouses.
Are
That's all I
are
would.
we killing our
That
own
chapter
spouses,
chapter
or
one,
each other's?
chapter one on the Zoom. They actually discussed this. They were brazen about it.
Okay.
But that's all I would write.
Right. And then, so how long would it take you to write the outline of a whole book, that first draft of the outline?
Sometimes it can be a couple of days. Sometimes it could be a month. Sometimes it just comes, as you probably know. I don't know if you do outlines. And it wouldn't be everything. And one of the things I'll do when I'm writing is if I get to a scene and I'm not getting it, I move on. I just be TBD. The worst thing a lot of writers do is just get stuck and then drive themselves crazy, stress out, and don't do that. Just get it get it in the next draft,
And
or get it in the
presumably,
draft after that. Don't drive yourself crazy. Or worst case, you come back and you take that scene and you make it the first 2 paragraphs of the next chapter. You know.
presumably with so many projects on the go, you can always put one to one side and
Yes.
work on a different project. And in the
Yes.
back of your mind, it's then you're allowing a bit of creative space, aren't you, for the one
Uh-huh.
that you got stuck on?
Yeah, I think for sure there is something to that. And sometimes I'll just be driving somewhere and all of a sudden I'll be, and I'm not even thinking of the project, and all of a sudden I'll be,
Yeah.
writing something about it. Yeah.
So I mentioned at the start of our chat that this was the only interview that I had literally begged to carry
And
out.
now
And
you're sorry. Be careful what you wish for.
the reason for that is because I'm an outliner. I plan my books in forensic detail, and for a very long time I felt a bit like a fraud. A bit, you hear writers talk about how they let the muse take them and they go with the flow and the characters sort of do their own thing. And I felt that being someone who outlined wasn't a real writer. And I wondered if you had ever felt like that, if you'd ever felt
No,
that it was an
no,
inferior way of
I
writing.
don't. No, I'm not big on frauds and worrying about the past and the future. I don't worry about the past ever. I worry about the future too much either. It's kind of like come in and do my work for the day. Um, and so another one of my grandmother's thing, just chop wood. I mean, I can't say I was always that way. I think, when you do your first or second book, you're pretty, I remember, as I mentioned, and I'll mention it again to pat myself on the back, when I won the Edgar at 26 or whatever I was. And it was sort of a funny story. I had left Little Brand at that point, and I got a call, and I was working at Thompson. I was just a little copywriter there. And this woman said, we haven't been able to reach you. And I go, well, okay, I'm sorry, not that complicated, but okay. And you've been nominated for an Edgar for best first novel, best first mystery. I said, oh, that's really great. And she gave me the date, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't go. I don't know what I had. I said, I can't go because something was going on. And she said, no, I don't think you heard me. You've been nominated for an Edgar. I said, no, I did hear you, but I can't go. She said, you have to go. You won. And I said, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to go. But I went, and I sat. I brought my mom and dad, and I was sitting there thinking, maybe she lied just to get me there. You know what I mean? So I still was nervous about it. And then when I got up to give my little speech, all I said, I was very shy in those days, and all I said was, I guess I'm a writer now. I guess I'm a writer now. And there was, this sort of the fact that the book had been published and it won an award. I guess I'm a writer, so you really, at least I was very unsure of myself. And it seemed, as I said, presumptuous to think that I could publish books and, like that.
Do you ever get nervous now?
About books, about the first tea at the golf thing, maybe. Um, Rarely. If something comes up where I mentioned, there's one project I'm doing now where the person I'm working with is the ego is just too large. So it's every once in a while something like that. That's it's just I don't know, yeah, a little nervousness, yeah, like because it's just not working well. Yeah.
What about if your life is full of writing, you've got this packed day, this packed schedule, all these projects on. Do you are you still reading for pleasure around this,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
what do you read?
Yeah. Well, right now I just started the Musk book. Walter Isaacson. I don't know if it's out there. Elon Musk. It's a big, like big, and I'm actually reading the new Stephen King, Holly. He's been unpleasant to me, but I don't care. It's fine.
How was he unpleasant to
Holly
you?
is not as good as 12 Months to Live. 12 Months to Live is better than Holly. It is one of those. People will like it. Holly is okay, Stephen, and I like a lot. One of his favorite books, the one where he wrote the 4 novellas, whatever the hell it was called, is one of my favorite books. So I give him his due. Give the devil his due.
Over the course of your publishing career, what's different? What's changed?
Everything. Not as many publishers, certainly in the States. There used to be 40 publishers, and now there's about 5. Now, some of them have different imprints, which they claim, you could submit to all 9 of their imprints, which I guess you could. So that's radical. Obviously, ebooks and that whole thing, Amazon, and the stores, that has changed drastically. The ability of stores to survive, independence to survive, and even the chains, less book space. I think it's getting harder and harder and harder. There's in moving toward diversity, which it is a very good thing on some levels, but also it's hard for some people. So that's a big change in terms of books being published. So a lot, I pretty much everything.
And does that change your job? Are you expected to do things differently now to 30 years ago, or fundamentally is your job still the same?
It's similar to what it was. Penguin Random House is comfortable with all the books that I did put out. Little Brown, I think, would like me to slow a little bit. And I get it, but and I say just count the volume and live with the volume, and it's okay. It's all good. And over the course of the year, they go, yeah, actually, you sold a few more books this year than last year. So, okay, you're right. That's okay. Well, we're okay with that.
Are you pretty hands-on with the business side of publishing? Do you get involved in the marketing meetings, the PR?
In the States, a lot. In UK, a little bit. I mean, I will. The last party, that's a nice. I would approve that cover. So the covers I'll be involved in. They'll show me the billboards and stuff, and I don't get harsh about it. I mean, it's not the way I was when I was at Thompson in terms of approving or disapproving. As long as it's coherent. But there's a simple rule. When I used to be at Thompson, I used to bring in the first year people. And I would say, look, I'm going to give you the secret to making $1 million a year in advertising. It really is a very simple notion. And I'd have a cream pie in my hand, and I would call up somebody from the audience. And I said, come on up here. And I'd have them stand next to me, and I'd have the cream pie, and I'd look at the person and look at the cream pie. And then I would give them the cream pie, and I'd say, hit me. And they would smash the cream pie into my face. And then I would say to the audience, and this is the secret to marketing. This is the whole thing. Hit them in the face with a cream pie, and while you have their attention, say something smart and motivating. The end. There's nothing else. No cream pie. I don't care how good what you said is, because they didn't pay any. They didn't hear it. So you can do a commercial, and 70% of the people remember. You can do a commercial and less than 1%. No cream pie. So there's no point. Oh, but we said all the things we wanted to say. Yeah, I know, but nobody heard it. So, I mean, and that's the thing about, I mean, here's your cover to the last party. I would look at that and I would pick it up, and say, well, I like the title. I like the cover. What's this about? And I like Claire, and she's good, and whatever. So that's your biggest marketing thing right there.
So the cover's a cream pie, and I suppose that analogy actually follows through into the book itself, that you need that cream pie in the book. You need the hook, the premise. We read
that
the blurb.
That is not the cover.
Well, no, this is not the cover. This is just the holding cover. But when we read the blurb and we realize that our protagonist has been diagnosed with this terrible illness, she's got 12 months to live. That's our cream pie, right? It's all very well having a book that might be beautifully written and crafted.
I'm not sure what the cream pie on that one is. I'm not sure that I would go to the 12 months to live thing, but whatever it is.
You've got to have that hook, haven't you? A way into the book.
Well, look, I mean, people are out there. They one, books cost money, and two, you have to invest some time. So yeah, I mean, you have to have something. I mean, it's like okay, yes, I like to read books, and then which one? Am I going to read, Claire's book or Jim's book? Read Jim's and then read Claire's. No, I'm kidding. Read Claire's and then read mine. Either way, we read both of ours. It's good.
Every time I think of a question, you then make me laugh and distract me, and I forget entirely what I wanted to ask. What have you read?
That's what this book is all about. That's what Jane does, and she does it in court, which is fun. And once again, we're pushing the thing a little bit there in terms of what you can get away with in court. But that's part of her thing. I mean, the things she says in court are outrageous, it's fun.
Rude. And actually the prosecutor, her opponent, is also very rude. They have this fantastic banter and repartee going.
American courts are rude. They are rude.
How much research do you do? What's your first-hand experience of law, of policing, or do you just?
I have my law degree, so that helps. And I was a prosecuting attorney for a while. No, I know a lot of lawyers, and I will talk to them about. I mean, at this stage, and I write a fair number of books where there are court scenes. There's frequently a court scene in a women's murder club somewhere in there. One of the women is she's shifted around a couple of times, but she's a prosecutor now. I have these half a dozen lawyers who I'll talk to about stuff.
Do you go on tour?
I I don't usually. I obviously during COVID I didn't go at all. In the beginning, it was crazy when I was in my 30s and whatever. I would sometimes do three in a day, which is really like maddening. And those days, well, actually, when the book started selling, I mean, you could be doing 1,000 per store, and three was exhausting. Now, not much. I did it for the autobiography because I damned if that was going to fail. I just wouldn't let it fail. And um, and then for the last book I did with Mike Lupica, who, as I said, is a good friend. So we just go out and have fun for 5 days, and we're funny together, and blah blah blah. So we're going to do 12 months to live in the States. We'll do 5 days or so.
And do you enjoy meeting readers?
Yeah, yeah, I don't enjoy the car rides to meet the readers and the plane rides or whatever. But yeah, no, I mean the events are fun, and they are, and they're chatty and fun, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. I noticed that you won the Old Peculiar Award. I went to that once. They didn't give me an award, but I loved that. That was great. It was really fun environment. What is it, Theakston's?
Yes, the
Theakston,
Theakston's Old
so
Peculiar in
yeah,
Hamptons,
yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah,
UK.
yeah, 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 yeah. That was a real fun event. Yeah.
Well, I recently went to the inaugural crime festival in the Hamptons, which of course is where Jane Effing Smith is based.
That's right. That's right.
First time in the Hamptons. It's quite an extraordinary place.
It is. The traffic, nice, right? Now, what month was this?
April?
Recently? April? Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
this year.
April is just starting. Yeah, the Hamptons hasn't really started in April. The traffic, come July and August, it takes you an hour to go like 2 miles. It's crazy. I don't go out there much anymore. I used to, but it's too overwhelming. And
Why
and
put
and
Jane there? What was the thought process behind the setting?
it's just a good play. I like doing bad things in pretty places. It's just an interesting area. It's interesting visually. You got the ocean there. You have these small towns. You got a lot of money. Um, you have a fair number of rich criminals, whatever, out in whatever, Wall Street criminals, etc. Yeah, so I like that. I like that.
Well, it works. It works very well indeed. My final question for you is, what is your handicap?
My handicap is I come over the top. I don't know at this stage because it was the best it's ever been is around a nine. Here's my whole golf. The only good I'm about probably a 15 now, but I have 9 holes in one. That's the only. My wife has 6, and she had 4 at the beginning of the year. She's already had 2.5 this year, meaning that she had 2, and then she hit a bad shot on one. She hit a second ball and went in, so which doesn't count on her total. But so it's 9-6 now, and yeah, so we do for whatever reason we get a lot of holes in one. In case you're watching and listening or whatever, holes in one are supposed to be hard to get, but for some reason Sue and I get a lot of holes in one.
Well, I'm not going to take up any more of your golfing time.
This was
If
great. No,
you
no, wait, no. We're in the workday now. We're in the workday.
watching at home, if you've bought a ticket that included your book, you will be receiving your copy from Waterstones. If you haven't yet ordered 12 Months to Live, this is not the final cover, please do so either from Waterstones or consider supporting an independent bookshop. They would really appreciate your business. This has been a Fane online event. I've been Clare Mackintosh, and this has been the one and only James Patterson. Thank you so much for joining
Oh,
us.
thank you. This is great. It was really good. You're a great interviewer, a great writer, and a great interviewer. What a combination. You probably were a great cop too. So, whatever.
Thank
Nice
you.
to talk to you. Really nice. Yeah.
Goodbye.